But I realized at that moment I have work to do on me, because I can't continue to equate my value to what I can do for a woman. That's
Yeah.
not fair on me.
Or even what you can do for a woman being solely based on in the financial space. You
Exactly. There we
know,
go.
as yeah, as people, like we require so much, and in the grand scheme of things, the to-do list of life, is a small part of it, man. Like bills are gonna get paid, but as human beings, we need so much more than just who brings in the biggest check. And that's, I think, if men understand that, then what it means to be a provider is more nuanced. Now, when it comes to like the other day, I can't remember what I was doing. I was in the room. Oh, I think I was studying, and I heard this big. Our youngest daughter somehow falls hard, and I hear my wife is trying to cook at the time. She's multitasking in the most like impressive way ever. So I come out, I grab our youngest, and I'm like in full nurture mode. You know what I mean? I'm kissing the boo boo, like I'm comforting. I'm holding frozen pancakes to her face where she fell at. And in the I think in the way we break down roles in marriage, most people would see that viewpoint as, oh, that would be the woman who's the more nurturing. But in terms of a leadership standpoint in the household, it's a service. What needs to be done in this moment, right? So she's cooking. I can't act like, oh man, hey yo, yeah, yo, the baby, what do I do? You know what I'm saying? Yo, she crying. I need help. Nah, like it's what does the household need? And when men can really understand what leadership means, like when we really understand like it's service and it's not a throne that we sit on in the household, it's a position of service. When we understand that, now what being a provider means is so nuanced. It's not about just how much I bring in. It's about what does my household feel like I contribute when I'm in the house. Like the fact that my wife looks at me and says, hey, you're important to the emotional stability of this house. So if you're not good, we're not good. And I was offended by that in the moment, like when she was telling me to, hey, shake it off. But that just speaks to what she sees in me and what I mean to the household. You know what I mean? So, man, that's my heart is heavy for our brothers in arms, man. I really want us to be for real.
In preparing for this conversation, I went back over some of your videos, because I was like, I need to research. I need to do some sort of research. And there was a line from one of your podcasts which said, a good relationship will show you you. It will hold a mirror to yourself. Explain that.
Man, that was one of those thoughts that came out of that real life experience I talked to you about. Remember the first adult relationship I told you I was with someone who's extremely docile. And while that eliminated arguments, which is in my mind growing up, I was like, okay, this is what I grew up in. I don't want to experience this anymore. So I need to get with someone who I'll never argue with. And I got that. We never argued. But that also caused me never to grow. And now don't misconstrue what I'm saying. I'm not saying I need to argue to grow, but growth, development, all comes through the form of some sort of tension, right? Like when I work out, it's the tension. It's the tension. It's the breaking down of those old muscle tissue and like the rebuilding, like all of that process requires tension. And you don't get that with someone who won't tell you you're wrong. You don't get that from someone who won't confront you, or someone who cares enough to see you and tell you about you. So I ended up marrying someone who's just like my mom. she's she's just like my mom. And if I'm being honest with you, man, I needed that, bro. I needed that. And that's what that line is. It's like she's a mirror to me. She shows me. She shows me the aspects of myself that I wouldn't see if I was by myself. You know what I mean? and I trust her enough to speak on those things, and how she feels about me is so cemented that I don't misconstrue her thoughts. You know what I mean? Like if she tells me something that's critical, I'm naturally wired to defend that. You know what I mean? Like I'm naturally defensive. I'm a people pleaser, and I always want to feel like, all right, but no. Look at it from this point. Look at it from this point. You know, now she shows me, and that's not always fun. That's not always that's not always a good experience. But the growth that I've experienced in almost every area of my life since we've been together is all a testament to that, man. Like even you seeing that video on TikTok, like, man, I never would have put that stuff up on the internet, bro. Like,
Mm.
you know, I never would have done that, but that's all a testament to what I've experienced through growth, being with someone who, you know, holds you accountable.
Where was the turning point when you realized Brandy was the one?
Um, so I've had two major moments. The first one was kind of superficial, and the second one was deep to me, right? So we had been talking on the phone when we had first reconnected, and we met at a park. We met at a park and just talked. And she was like, "Hey, I brought you some cake." She had a home baking business, and she had baked this cake. I went home after our little, you know, date at the park, you know, on a little bit of a cloud because I'm like, man, this is crazy. Like I hadn't spoke to her in almost 20 years, man. And for us to like have not lost any chemistry is wow. And I'm
Mm.
standing up in my kitchen, and I pop open the little styrofoam thing, and I bit the cake and went, I said, oh, she the one. I said that out loud. I said it out loud, bro, in my kitchen by myself. I said, she's the one. Yeah, that's mad superficial, and it's kind of fat. You can't marry someone because they, you know, bake cake really well. But I genuinely felt that. The second one came after we had been dating for a while, and I bought her engagement ring. I had it, but the moment I bought it, fam, I started dealing with so much anxiety, so much worry because I had been married before, been divorced. I was sure the first time, and it ended in divorce. So I'm like, can I really trust when I say I'm sure? Like, how do you know? Um, so I was doing this like internal warfare. At the time, I had to move out of my apartment, and I was in a really weird season of my life where I was isolated. I didn't have anybody to call to help me move, anyone I felt comfortable with. I'm pretty sure I could have called some people, they would have showed up, but I felt weird calling you to help me move if I ain't spoke to you in a minute. You know, I was in a weird season. The friends I used to have, I was having a life change, and my lifestyle just didn't agree with where they were going. Like I can't do the stuff y'all doing. At the same time, old friends I hadn't spoke to in a while, like I'm like, I ain't calling him. I ain't spoke to my bro in so long. So I was moving out of this apartment by myself, fam. And it was so hard. Like couches, dressers, my kids' beds, like I was going through it. I just started throwing stuff away. I'm like, man, I don't even need a kitchen table. Who needs a dining room table? Whatever. Like I'm just throwing stuff away because I'm so frustrated. I hear the doorbell. Now, I didn't ask anyone to help me move. I answer the door, and it's Brandy. And I was like, what are you doing here? She was like, we're moving. She said, we're moving. And I was so moved in that moment. She had brought me a Gatorade. I drank it, got a rest. And while I'm resting, she's putting up pots and pans. She's picking up, she's a tiny woman. She's picking up nightstands and lamps. And I was like, wow. And it just cemented for me that I had made the right decision. Like it wasn't someone who was with me when I'm on a high or when I'm like for any facade. She's with me when I'm completely alone, when I don't have anyone else to call on. I don't even need to ask her. She's just there. And that was a moment I knew. I said, yep, that's the right decision. If I had the ring on me at that moment, I would have right there in that apartment, like, marry me.
I love that. I struggle. This is an area I struggle in, right? Because I don't tell people I call myself an observer. right? So I just observe how people act. I don't speak. So I'm not gonna
Mm.
tell you I don't like that. I'm just gonna watch and see how you maneuver. And the same if I need help. I'm like, I'm not gonna ask for help, but I'm hoping someone helps me. But I just don't feel comfortable sometimes to, and that's what I mean by I put myself in these positions where I, I'm carrying the load myself and I'm making it more difficult for me because I won't ask. Why didn't you ask Brandy to help?
Um, I it was weird, man. I felt a little embarrassed
Mhm.
because she had been asking me, like, so you're moving? Yeah. It's like, you gonna call? She was naming some people she knew I was cool with, and I was like, nah, I'm cool. I got it. And she was like, well, like, you're not gonna call someone? I was like, I might hit them up. I'll see what they're doing. But I was really embarrassed that I didn't have anyone to call on or anyone I felt comfortable with. Um, so in likewise, I didn't want her coming to see me moving out my apartment by myself. Like, it just wasn't a picture I wanted her to see of me. You know what I'm saying? Like, alone, struggling, like, sweating, carrying stuff. I wasn't comfortable her seeing me like that. So that's why I didn't ask, because I just, I didn't want to present that to her.
So then when you realized the thing I was trying to avoid, she's now seeing, how did that make you feel?
Man, just that it made me feel seen. And a lot of guys, I don't even know if guys are aware they want that or even know what that feels like. But when you step into a scenario and you automatically assume that you got to be the strong one, that a lot of our image of what that looks like a lot of times doesn't leave space for vulnerability. In our minds, we got to be the stability. So if everyone's grieving and crying, in our minds, we're like, I got to be strong. I'll be strong. I'll comfort everybody. You good? Hey, you need some tissue? That's most of the time where men land at. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I think we're wired that way for a reason. But because of that, there isn't a lot of spaces where we feel seen, where we feel like you understand me, you get me. I don't need to say it, because you see it. You know me so well to where, I don't necessarily have to verbalize it. You see it already, and that's a rare thing. But when I saw that, man, I felt so seen. You know what I mean? And that's what cemented it for me. I said, yeah, like, she gonna have to fight me away. I'm not going nowhere.
Did it make you feel, just because it's a word we used at the start, did that also make you feel safe?
Absolutely.
Mm.
100%. 100%. And to this day, man, like, that's one thing that has never changed. Like, I feel so safe. And it's it's so weird. Even as a man, I feel weird saying that. You know what I mean? I feel like I'm supposed to be the security.
Mm.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, I want her to feel safe, but it's important for men to feel safe too. And that doesn't necessarily mean, like, most of the time when people hear I feel safe, that means like safe from danger. Like, I'm not
Mm.
looking for her to throw hands from me, but like, safe, safe in that, like, I know this person isn't going to do anything to intentionally hurt me. Like, yes,
Mm.
she's human. Yes, she's like a flawed human, like we all are. So I'm sure there's gonna be some times where I'm offended or upset, but I know her baseline is that she wants to help me. She wants to help advance me, and I never have to question her motives. And that is a feeling of safety that every man deserves.